So, in case you guys didn't hear over the weekend, they announced that Hockey Day Minnesota 2019 will be hosted by the great city of Bemidji, and that means that basically the Beavers are going to get to play on Fox Sports North, and I kind of assume that it'll be against Duluth. That's my guess.
Okay.
Obviously, we don't have the schedule yet for next season. We don't have any of the high school hockey matchups, but I'm assuming that what they like to do is usually they like to have a couple of northern schools play, especially when it's hosted by a northern team like Bemidji. So I'm assuming that Bemidji High School will probably play a team like Grand Rapids or maybe Hermantown or Duluth East. And then, depending on if they do bring city schools up here, then, we might see some talented city schools like we saw, I think, Egan a couple years ago when it was in Grand Rapids. So we could see some talented city schools. Otherwise, like I said, you've got Duluth East, Hermantown, Grand Rapids, and Bemidji, who are all pretty good high school hockey teams up here. So I assume BHS will probably be playing either Grand Rapids, Hermantown, or Duluth East. And then it'll probably be followed up by a women's college hockey game. And I assume that would probably be the Beavers against a Minnesota or a Duluth. And like we said, we're not sure what it is exactly at this point in time. But I'm pretty sure that they would probably be scheduling either North Dakota or Duluth for this weekend series. And I know that over the last couple of years, they scheduled Duluth early this season, and we had North Dakota in the middle of the season. Last season we scheduled North Dakota early in the season. We had Duluth towards the middle of the season. But 2 years ago, they were both in the early season. So I'm not sure. I can't see us playing Mankato that early in the season because we usually play them towards the earlier slate of our conference games. And then, right at the end is where we usually play them. The last weekend of the season is when we play Mankato. So I assume that it would be a rivalry against Duluth or North Dakota. North Dakota, I would say, would be really fun because it would be obviously packed in there. But Hockey Day Minnesota is going to be so exciting. They're going to have tons of events outside by Lake Bemidji. Mm-hmm. And I assume that they might, like they did when they hosted in Grand Rapids a couple years ago, they played the high school hockey games out on Pekegama Lake, which is a huge lake there in Grand Rapids.
So you could see something like that on Lake Bemidji. We could see that on Lake
Bemidji here next year. That would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it'd be a fun fan experience for sure. In looking at the article, again, from bsubeavers.com, I found out just about everybody who has a quote in this article had to quote Paul and Babe at least once. Like, we get it, there's a statue of them in this town, but a little overboard. But in this thing, it talks about how they're, honored to have Hockey Day Minnesota come to Bemidji, and I think this is a really good thing for the town. Bemidji has never hosted Hockey Day Minnesota before.
No, this is the 13th. It's never been hosted by Bemidji.
It was first started out in 2007, partnered with the Minnesota Wild at Fox Sports North, and the first two in 07 and 08 were in Baudette. The next two was at Phelan Park in 09, Hermantown in 2010, Moorhead in 2011, Minnetonka in 2012, Grand Rapids in 2013, Elk River in 2014, St. Paul in 2015, Duluth in 2016, Stillwater last year, and St. Cloud this year. So they've been doing a great job of spreading it around the state to, some of the bigger hockey towns. So I think, it's just a great thing. We talked about this last week. Hockey is our sport. And even though I'm not a huge hockey fan, it still shows, Minnesota takes great pride in this. And, other places claim to be the capital of hockey, but let's face it, Minnesota is the capital of hockey. You don't see other places, from Pee-wee to pros, have this kind of, have a sport has this kind of influence. It's like football in Texas.
The stat that I love the most is, I believe last year, for the 2A state championship between Grand Rapids and Moorhead, there was more people at that game than there was at any other NHL game that happened that night. The XL Energy Center had more fans than any other hockey arena, and it was a high school state championship game. Between two schools that were up north. Moorhead and Grand Rapids are up north. They have to travel. Grand Rapids has to travel. Their band, all their students travel back and forth every night. They don't get hotels. That's commitment to hockey right there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's just crazy. And, hockey's our sport. And, there's some crazy stat of how many just Minnesotans are in the NHL and how many Minnesotans play at premier hockey schools. And just, we look at it all the time in every other major collegiate sport. It's pretty much the U of M. But when you take that out of the equation and you put in hockey, it's Bemidji. It's, it's UND. It's even though they're not in Minnesota, but it's just in the area. And then you got the Gophers, you have Mankato, you have Duluth, you have just all these schools, and it just shows that Minnesota is the state of hockey.
A lot of professional hockey players are tied to the state of Minnesota in some way. You can say, oh, well, this guy went to North Dakota. Yeah, but he played his high school hockey here at Roseau or something like
or
that.
Or Thief River.
Yeah,
or,
exactly. It's, they're all tied to Minnesota. Not all. A lot of them are tied to Minnesota in some way, at least the Americans. So it's very special for the city of Bemidji to get to host this event. It's going to be absolutely exciting. Like we were talking about earlier, CJ, hopefully we can get our show out there. That would be pretty cool.
Yes.
We can get our show out there doing something.
It's all up to you guys. You guys got to make us popular.
It is. It's up to you guys to help make us popular. That would be super fun to get out there. We could host some entertaining, segments out there. So that would be really fun. But that's in the future. We got to focus on the rest of the year for the Wild, anyways, and for the Beavers. But
we got to focus on making sure we don't flunk out of classes at BSU first.
Something to look forward to for the city of Bemidji.